So the 2026 offseason, it's a huge crossroads for the Indianapolis Colts. Seriously, they're staring down a potential blockbuster move on defense that could completely reshape their secondary. But at the same time, they've got to figure out which of their core role players to keep around to make sure the foundation of the team is solid. In this explainer, we're going to break down the whole puzzle facing the Colts front office, where one player's health could kick off a really fascinating, high-stakes reunion.
Okay, so here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll dig into a big question mark that suddenly popped up in the Colts secondary and a potential reunion that just might be the perfect answer. Then, we're going to do a deep dive into that player's career numbers to see what story they tell. After that, we'll shift gears and focus on the team's foundation and 3 key role players who are looking for new deals. And finally, we'll look at the whole shebang from the GM's perspective to really understand the tough choices on the horizon. You know, when you think about a great defense, stability in the secondary is everything. But for the Colts, that stability is looking, well, a little shaky right now. The future of one of their most important defensive backs is suddenly a major question. And if he's not there, it creates a massive hole that the team has to fill, like yesterday. It could set off a domino effect for their entire offseason plan.
The player we're talking about is veteran corner Charvarius Ward. And the problem isn't how he plays, it's his health. We're talking 3 documented concussions in just 1 season. I mean, in today's NFL, with everything we know about players' safety and the long-term effects of these injuries, that is a massive, massive red flag. It's the kind of situation that forces a really tough personal conversation for both the player and the organization, making his retirement a very real possibility.
So let's just say Ward does decide to hang him up for his own long-term health, and who could blame him, right? Suddenly, the Colts have this gaping hole at one of the most important positions on the field. You can't just throw a backup out there against elite NFL receivers and expect things to go well. This single question, how do you fill that spot, is what kicks off the most interesting storyline of their offseason.
Okay, so how do you plug a hole that big? Well, sometimes the best answer is right under your nose. Or, in this case, it might be a familiar face. The Colts might not have to look all over the league for a replacement. There's a potential free agent out there who not only has the talent to start, but also has a deep, career-defining relationship with the Colts defensive coordinator. It could be an absolutely perfect fit.
And that potential solution? His name is Cam Taylor-Britt, a cornerback from the Bengals. Now, he's not just any free agent. This guy was a second-round pick back in 2022, so he's got the kind of pedigree you look for in a starter. But what makes him such a logical and kind of fascinating fit for Indianapolis goes way deeper than his draft status. It's all about who he's played for.
And this right here, this is the key to the whole thing. Lou Anarumo. Before he was calling the shots for the Colts defense, Anarumo was the DC for the Cincinnati Bengals. He was the guy in charge from the moment Cam Taylor-Britt got drafted and, more importantly, during the best years of his young career. This isn't just a former coach. This is the coach who molded him from a rookie into a top-flight NFL starter.
Look, this isn't just some fun trivia. This connection had real, tangible results on the field. The defensive system that the Colts are running right now is the exact same system that Taylor-Britt not only played in, but absolutely thrived in. He already knows the playbook, the coverages, the expectations. That kind of built-in knowledge is a huge advantage for a player looking to get his career back on track, and for a team needing an immediate impact.
So the connection is there, right? But wait until you see the numbers. The data tells a story that is, well, it's pretty darn convincing. It paints a picture of a player whose performance seems to be directly tied to one specific coach.
Okay, look at this career arc. It really tells you everything. 2022, he gets drafted, learns the ropes as a rookie. Then, 2023 and 2024, with Lou Anarumo calling the plays, his career just explodes. This is his peak. But in 2025, Anarumo leaves for the Colts, and Taylor-Britt's play takes a nosedive, a big one. And now, in 2026, he's hitting free agency. The timing for a reunion is almost too perfect to be a coincidence.
Wow. Okay, the numbers really do spell it out, don't they? After a decent rookie year, just look at 23 and 24 under Anarumo. He becomes a real playmaker. In 2023, he snags 4 interceptions, breaks up 11 passes. The next year, he's even better. 3 picks and a whopping 16 pass deflections. He's a ball hawk. But then, look what happens in 2025 when Anarumo leaves. His production falls off a cliff. 0 interceptions, only 5 pass deflections, and just 21 tackles in 8 games. The drop-off is just staggering.
I mean, it's just night and day, right? In his 2 best years with Anarumo, he racked up 7 interceptions and 27 pass breakups. He was playing like a guy on the verge of a huge payday. But in that 1 season without him,
0 picks, 5 pass deflections. He went from being a cornerstone of the Bengals defense to getting benched and even being shopped at the trade deadline. That's how dramatic the shift was. And this quote from A to Z Sports really just nails it. He would fit in Indy like a glove. It's hard to argue with that. He knows the system, he had all his success with the Colts' current DC, and he's at a point where he needs to prove himself again. The fit is perfect. The only question, just like the quote says, is the need. A need that would be created the second Charvarius Ward decides to retire.
All right, so chasing a guy like Cam Taylor-Britt, that's the big, shiny move, right? That's the one that gets the headlines. But championship teams aren't just built on superstars. They're built on a solid foundation of reliable, veteran role players who do the dirty work. For the Colts, locking down that foundation is just as important as hunting for a new starter.
Think about this. The Colts have 30 players with expiring contracts. 30! That is more than half of an entire 53-man roster. Now, obviously not all of them are coming back, but hidden in that group are a handful of unsung heroes. Veterans who might not be household names, but whose contributions are absolutely essential to winning games on Sundays. So instead of trying to tackle all 30, let's zoom in on 3 really key guys who kind of represent the tough choices the front office has to make. We're talking running back Ameer Abdullah, tight end Mo Alley-Cox, and defensive tackle Neville Gallimore. Each one has a really unique and strong case for being brought back.
All right, first up, let's head to the backfield and talk about running back Ameer Abdullah. In a league that's obsessed with youth at that position, Abdullah is living proof that there's immense value in a savvy veteran who has a very specific and very important skill set.
So what does a guy like Abdullah bring to the table? Well, it's a lot. He's a 10-year pro, so you get that veteran leadership in the locker room. On the field, his job is crystal clear. Be a super reliable pass catcher and an explosive kickoff returner. And that receiving skill? Look at this stat. 16 catches on just 17 targets. That is just ridiculously reliable. And at 33 years old, he showed everybody he still has plenty of juice left in the tank.
And his special teams value? Oh man, it's off the charts. An average of 29.6 yards per kickoff return put him fifth in the entire NFL. That's an elite weapon. Every time he touches the ball on a kickoff, he's a threat to flip the field and give the offense great starting position. That kind of contribution, which often flies under the radar, directly leads to more points.
Okay, next up, we've got a guy who's been an absolute fixture in Indy for years, but his value isn't something you'll ever see in a fantasy football score. Let's talk about the big man, tight end Mo Alley-Cox.
Mo Alley-Cox is the classic specialist. He's been on the team since 2018. He's not out there to catch 80 passes. Nope. His job is to block. With that massive 6'5", 267-pound frame, he's basically a sixth offensive lineman. He protects the quarterback, and he carves out running lanes for Jonathan Taylor. He's a blue-collar guy who does the essential work, and he could probably be brought back on a very team-friendly one-year, $2 million deal.
And don't just take my word for it. Pro Football Focus, the guys who grade every single play, ranked him as the number 2. The second best pass-blocking tight end in the entire NFL last season. Think about that for a second. You have one of the very best players in the world at a crucial skill, and he's already on your team. Letting a guy that dominant in his role walk away would be a huge loss for that offensive line.
All right, for our last guy, let's flip over to the defense and talk about a really important depth piece on the defensive line, Neville Gallimore.
Gallimore's importance is all about 2 things, being available and being necessary. First, the guy was durable, played in all 17 games. Second, and this is so important, the Colts have 10 free agents in their front 7 alone. They can't let everybody go. They need quality rotational guys like Gallimore to keep their stars fresh. After a career year, his price might go up a little, but it's still a very reasonable $2 to $4 million range.
And this is why his stock is going up. 3.5 sacks, now that might not jump off the page, but for a rotational guy on the inside whose main job is to eat up blockers, that's really solid production. And more importantly, it was a career high for him. That shows he's a player who's still getting better, and that makes him a really smart investment for your defensive depth.
Okay, so let's pull it all together now. What we're looking at are 2 totally different but totally connected challenges for the Colts front office. On one hand, you've got the potential big splash move for a starting cornerback like Cam Taylor-Britt, and on the other, you have the less glamorous but absolutely critical job of re-signing the foundational guys who make the team tick.
And that brings us to the million-dollar question that the GM has to answer. With only so much money to go around, what's the priority? Do you go for the big home run swing on a starter, hoping that reunion with Lou Anarumo pays off big time?
Or do you focus on the foundation, making sure guys like Abdullah, Ale Cox, and Gallimore are back to keep the roster stable and deep? It's a classic team-building dilemma, and there is no easy answer.
So I gotta ask you, what would you do? Prioritize the big splash or secure that foundation? Let me know your game plan down in the comments. If you found this breakdown interesting, do me a favor and hit that like button, and definitely subscribe to NFL Nexus so you don't miss our next deep dive. And hey, you can also support the channel by checking out our coloring books. They're great for fans of any age. You can scan the QR code on your screen or just click the link in the description. Thanks so much for watching.